Welcome to Mac and Blue, the cutting-edge podcast for the nation's builders, merging the realms of construction with exciting advancements in technology. Join us on a thrilling journey where we delve into the dynamic world of blockchain, AI, the metaverse, virtual and augmented reality, and their transformative impact on the industry. Our engaging discussions span a wide spectrum, covering not only construction, economic development, supply chain, and market segments, but also exploring the vibrant tapestry of diversity within the construction landscape. We shed light on the intersection of local politics and its profound influence on the construction sector, while championing the remarkable contributions of women and minorities in construction. For all things Mac and Blue, head to www.macandblue.com, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mac and Blue. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky, president and co-founder of Blue Wave, and I have one of just a very storied guest, Tommy Mello with A1 Garage Door Service. For those of you in the Phoenix market, if you don't know who Tommy Mello is, you might as well just turn it off right now, okay? Tommy's story is very engaging, and we're going to try to go through just a ton of stuff today. We only have an hour, and I want to be respectful of Tommy's time, but I don't even know where to start, but let's just dive in. Welcome, Tommy, for being here.
Yeah.
Kudos to Frank. We have a mutual friend in Frank, that I wouldn't say he's here because of that, but I guarantee you he validated for me. So thanks, Frank. Anyway, Tommy, just where do we start? Give a little bit. We don't need to do the whole resume background, but just the compelling story of how you started and got to where A1 is nowadays.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is I grew up broken family. Great mom and dad, though. Mom and dad got a divorce when I was 7. Mom worked 3 jobs. Dad did the best he could, soccer coach, baseball coach. But I learned to be an entrepreneur at a very young age. And I got an opportunity to paint garage doors for a buddy. Started painting them. I could paint 10 a day. He said the max anybody's got to is 3 a day. And I was bartending. I was at a landscaping company. I was a hustler.
Glad you said the word, because I was going to say it for you.
Yeah, I was flipping Bowflexes, flipping cars, flipping total gyms, just whatever I could do to make a buck. And I kept meeting up with these garage door guys, and they were making, this is pre-2007 when the housing crisis, and these guys were making buku bucks. So one of my buddies, I said, let's start a garage door company. And we failed miserably. Like everywhere we looked, we were losing money. But we made ends meet, and in 2010, we decided to go our separate ways. Still best friends. And at my mom and stepdad moved out from Michigan to help me. Somebody I could trust. 2014, I found an integrator. 2017, I found a great mentor, Al Levy. Got on the Service Titan. 2019, rebranded with Kick Charge. Much better logos, just figured stuff out. Then I started really figuring out how to get better KPIs, how to run the business with more of a culture-led business, technician and installer first. We should do north of $250 million this year. That's revenue, but profits 24.5%. And it's taken years to get this to this place, but it's a really good company. It's really tight run, and I think we're just getting started. I think it's only the beginning. I really feel like I wake up, I'm excited for Mondays. I created a place that I actually love to go into.
Right. Now, I followed you, so I know all the nuances. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions because I don't know how much the audience really knows you. And I'll tell you why. And this is one of the other things I want to approach today is if I can pigeonhole you and your organization, because we both own service companies, and specific construction service companies. But one of the topics I wanted to cover today is with all the, call it fail forwards and failures and successes that you've had, is these are not just systematic to those verticals. These could be applied to everything.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I really wanted to start in is, Tommy, can you imagine in all the times that you speak in the podcasting that you do nationally, is how many other industries come up to you and say, is that repeatable or replicatable in my vertical too, Tommy? And what is your answer?
I mean, listen, I started having vertical track for garage door companies, and all of a sudden plumbers, roofers, pest control, automotive guys would show up. Like, we've got the same business. It's just a different widget. So I think it is translatable. Building a culture, strong brand, KPI driven. 4 KPIs, I'll fix any company, any dentist office, any hospital, any nail salon in the world. And that's very simply, what is your booking rate? Well, how many calls are you booking or form fills? What is your conversion rate? What is your average ticket? What is your cost per acquisition? This is how I buy companies. This is how I build my budget. This is how I fix companies. Those 4 KPIs. Now, there's a lot of financials and other things, turnover rate, culture, 360 reviews. There's way deeper. But those 4 KPIs is how I do everything. That's how I buy it. That's the kind of the basis of my company.
You mentioned Al Levy. Take 5-10 minutes and describe what that meant to you, because I think there's a lot of people out there that once they watch or see this or look you up and look at the story, what does an Al do to a guy like Tommy or a guy like JJ?
So I think every entrepreneur, I was in a room of 800 speaking on a stage. I said, how many people in here have ADHD? Every visionary has a touch of like the shiny light syndrome. And I met Al. It was like my 3rd podcast. Then this is 2017.
Okay.
And he happens to live in Scottsdale, so I took him to lunch, and we talked, and he goes, would you mind if I saw your business? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all excited to show him. He walks through there. There's calendars on the walls. He tripped on a cord. He said he could have stole my whole warehouse with my own forklift. The garage was open. Nobody was back there. Basically peeled my business apart. He goes, show me your manuals. Like, how does somebody know what they're supposed to do? How do they move up in the company? What happens if they need a sick day? I was like, here's one. And it was like this company dusty 3-ring binder. And he goes, so what, am I allowed to get a tattoo on the side of my face? What happens if I do drugs? What happens if I show up drunk? What's the facial hair policy? What's the right way to wind a spring? And I'm like, I know all that stuff, but it's all in my mind. And he goes, well, what's your profitability? I was like, 4%. We were at 17 million. He's like, and there were times where there was barely any money to make payroll, where I was like borrowing against my house to just make ends meet. And I was really good at marketing and I understood sales. And so Al said, would you consider working with me? And he gave me this big price. And I said, kind of have to now. So I said, yes. And he said, we're going to start here. And we started with manuals. And we sat in this room, me, Brian, Adam, and Al. We turned off our cell phones and we worked through all the different things of how the company works, how you can move up in the company. He calls it the triangle of communication, CSRs, dispatchers, technicians. And then he did ride-alongs with a lot of technicians, and he said, every one of your guys is doing it differently. And he said, your trucks all look different. He goes, you got different makeups of trucks. He's like, he goes, Tommy, when we get done with this business, it's going to be very vanilla. It's going to be so much standard operating procedures and systems. You are the best firefighter I've ever met. Like, you know how to fix everything. And it's almost like you enjoy firefighting because you're the guy that can you're the fixer. And he said, you're going to get really bored when the business starts having no issues and everything goes right. And he was right. It did. And then we leapfrogged to 40 million. And that's when I got rebranded by KickCharge. And of course, you got to rebuild the company, get a little bit deeper into policies. I still call Al all the time. Mm-hmm. So rebuilt it, then more systems. And now it's like, I'm like, do we have a policy and a system? Like now I'm like, where's the manual? Where's that in the manual? Like now I'm like, I sound a lot like Al. I used to walk in this meeting and I'd be like, Al, I read the best book. He's like, stop. I don't want to hear about your new book, your new idea, your new flavor of the month. He goes, we're going to do it my way or I'm out. And he goes, I'm going to show you the systematic processes that are going to build the foundation of how you delegate, how you communicate with the guys, how often you read the manuals, how people can move up in the company, how your org chart and your depth chart looks, how just everything. And he had the answers, and he's like, your whole building's set up wrong. He's like, you're the first one I could get. I walked through the front desk, and there's your office. He's like, we got to redesign all this. So we bought another building. We were leasing that one, and we redesigned it. That I'm the hardest one to get to. The whole C-suite, the COO, the CFO, and me are the hardest people to get to. You got to pass, and he's just so methodical about everything and very intentional. You add in my sales and marketing and culture building, and it was like it was like crazy how much we've been able to grow. And then I got the right CFO, and that changed a lot of stuff. I mean, he's world-class.
So, thank you.
Yeah, he's the 7-power contractor. He wrote a cool book that kind of explains the 7 powers, the financial power, the planning power. He had us build a Trello board of the top projects, top 100, top 30, top 5, and really got us thinking on the right things.
But for all the people you talk to, and even the ones that'll be listening to this, what's the action plan or the call out when you look introspectively to go, how do you find an Al? Like, how do you find the right Al for each organization? Like, when people ask you that, Tommy, how do you tell them to go through the process?
Well, I'm working with a lot of, I consult and help a lot of companies, and I ask the same questions. I don't believe there's any data integrity. They don't know their booking rate. They don't know those 4 KPIs. So you can buy Al's program still. It's $10,000 now. I paid him $350,000, but it's more of a DIY. It's not. He's not sitting.
But it commoditize you.
But if people that if you go through do the hard work and read the manuals out loud and have each person initial each page and sign off, and then you bring it up every week, we read 10 pages, and it's harder because you got to be self-disciplined. But I don't think there's anybody better. I mean, he's worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies they're like, Al's right. And then it's getting someone really smart at ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, Jobber, to understand and make reliable data come out. Because there's always a hole. I don't care how big you are or how small you are. There's one thing you need to be focused on that week. It could be your booking rate. Could be you got the lowest average ticket. It could be you're not getting enough leads. Your capacity planning's out of whack. And, I think we took Al's teachings to like this crazy new level because we service 18,000 garages a month.
A month.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really a competitor to A1. And people are like, I'm going to get in the garage business. I'm like, good. I'm like, charge the right prices. But I'm like, competition's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have 500 competitors here in Phoenix, and now we're in 23 states. So it's a lot of markets. I always look hindsight, should I got into HVAC or roofing or plumbing? Because it's the same competition. It's just a way higher ticket average.
Yep.
I'd already be a billionaire, literally. But I'm not upset of where I'm at today. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm very excited of what's going on in our life and with the company and the people I get to work with.
Talk to me in the audience about what prompted Elevate, the book that you wrote.
So I wrote the first book, The Home Service Millionaire, and it was a hard book to write because it was my first book, and I'm like, I got another page I want to add, and it never got done. Finally got done after Al told me to rewrite it. He said the first one was crap, and he was right. And so I got 12 co-authors in the book, and then as I started thinking about it, all these things started really resonating with me as, because I'm winning doesn't mean my competitors need to lose. And not only can my competitors win, but my vendors should be able to win. And not only do my vendors win, but my clients get to win. And not only do my clients, but my coworkers get to win. The technicians, the CSRs, the dispatchers, the warehouse guys, the installers. And then I get to win too. We could all win. It's not like the normal games. I'm a competitive guy. Like, I play, you name it, I want to win.
Well,
and
if I could interrupt.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, is because as a competitive guy that I know you are, and the reputation is, was it you looking in the mirror and finding it, or were people telling you, Tommy, you got to do more, outside of who you are? Or was it both? I mean, was it the Al's kicking you in the nuts, or was it Tommy looking in the mirror going, I want more out of life?
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
I think what it was is I looked in the mirror and I took responsibility for all the good things. And I used to blame other people for some of the things.
We all have, right?
Like whether it's the economy or whatever it might be. Well, during the last downturn when, we didn't know, I mean, we got the PPP money, but basically with what happened, where everybody was staying in homes, I won't go into the details of that, but, just a few years ago, we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty, and we made the joke that Tommy might have to go run jobs again because we had a whole plan that we rated every single person in the company. And the company was going to do good no matter what because we weren't going to let our clients down. We were going to let the team down. So we're going to this sounds bad, but trim fat until we had to make the company work, because it's not fair. Think about it. If we got 800 employees and each of them are taking care of 3 people, there's 3,200 people. So we had a contingency plan and we discussed it every day. And I just remember in my office, the first guy walked in and said, hey, man, while we're going through this hard time, the economy, what's going on there with the health crisis, I'm willing to cut my pay in half. My wife makes great money, and I don't want to be repaid. He goes, I'll just so we get through this. The next person came in and said, I'm willing to give all my sick days to somebody that needs them. And the next one came in and said, I'll give my sick days in PTO. Then the next person walked in and said, I'm willing to lower my wages this. And I didn't ask anybody to do that.
Right.
This was like they decided to do that.
You had built the culture by then.
And I said, man, these people care so much about this company and each other and the coworkers that I got to kind of elevate myself to this next level. And I got to give them the life they've always wanted. And I started thinking a lot more about, we used to have these things called performance improvement plans. And
the old PIP, right?
PIPs and write-ups. And I said, and then we started this Dream Manager program, and I watched people buying houses. And I figured out if we have people that dream bigger and want more and could reverse engineer that to KPIs, to like how often you work, what your average tickets are, still keeping a moral high ground, still saying ethical, not selling grandma stuff. But giving people options, not ultimatums. And we show them a path. And actually, we're incorporating profit first right now for employees. It's like having several bank accounts. That this comes out for kids' tuition. This comes out for a house. This is a second house. This is the trip to, Montana. If their dreams come true, my dreams automatically come true. So you build a dream big enough that everybody else's dream could fit inside. As their dreams are coming true, so are mine. And then I'm changing lives. I'm changing communities. I'm changing the world. Mm-hmm. And I let the competitors come through, do a shop tour. We've got vertical track. I speak at a lot of events. I kind of tell them the playbook because we're usually 10 steps ahead anyway. Mm-hmm. And there's no secret sauce. People are always looking for this. What's going to save my business? And it's hard work, discipline, organization. It's knowing your numbers. The formulas, the numbers I said, we're going to be a $1 billion company. My manager's like, how? And I'm like, well, we need 2,000 technicians doing $500,000 a month, $500,000 a year. That's $1 billion. And then I said, here, we would need full-time recruiters. We would need full-time trainers. We would need people to make sure that people are happy with low turnover. We would need, and I just kind of explained how the lead gen would work, and we had this plan. And they walked out of there believing it. So now everybody believed in this new number. And what would that mean for them? So now we give, first it was called Equity Incentive Program. 25 millionaires came out of our first deal. And then now I'm giving it all the way down to the technician level. 25 guys have equity in the company. And I wanted to make it a place where if you work hard, you could become an owner of this business. And of course, our sponsors didn't love this idea. They're like, all the way down to that level. And I kind of wanted to have it almost like an ESOP where everybody got a little piece. And they're like, no, only the top 5%. Oh. And I was able to sell that off. They're like, you got to earn it. This isn't you're just granted. This is meritocracy. And I agree, hindsight. So I love the guys that work hard. They're willing to get trained more, and gals, Yep. I say guys in both. But I feel like it's a great way to recruit. It's a great way to keep them working. It's a great way to ask for more from them, and they feel like they've got a stake in the outcome.
So if we go back to that time period of 2020, just for the audience's edification here, had you already written Elevate, or were you in the process of writing it?
I was in the process. It really created a lot more clarity.
Right.
And
so it kind of was a validation for you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
by the way, for everyone, it's Elevate, build a business where everyone wins. And I remember the first time I read it, before I even started, I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. I knew about you, but at the background, I was like, oh, does he have some sort of socialist agenda here? Because you get that. It's like, hey, you can't have everything for everybody. There's got to be the meritocracy piece to it.
Right.
I will give you credit. In the book, you peel that onion back pretty darn well of describing how you still measure. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Those things.
Inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
I've got, if you go to calc.a1garagetools.com, guys can figure out what they want to make for the year. And then I say, let's reverse engineer down to the quarter, down to the month, down to the week, down to the day. And we need to keep track of these things. And I'm building a lot of tools right now to let guys know where they stay. Let's up add up all your bills.
Right.
Let's really we have a budget. I have a personal budget. We were never taught this in school. We weren't taught to have a great credit score. We weren't taught about, like, to a mortgage broker on how much you need to put down on a house. Can you afford it and when and why? And people are always like, I'm going to refinance my house. I'm like, well, you realize on a 30-year fixed loan, it's front-loaded with interest. So although your payment's going to come down, is this the right? And I kind of walk them through this because I had to learn the hard way these things. And I'm really trying to help them not only retire, but like, you don't want to be 65 or 70. Don't you want to take your kids to Disney World now? And don't you want to take them first class? I've got a guy that works with me, one of the technicians, and he's like, my son is 8 years old, and he wants to go to the African safari. And so he comes up to me and he goes, Daddy, we got a spot in November. 4 of us going to go. It's $8,000 a piece. So he's like, I'm saving for this $32,000 trip. But I got a picture of my son that I look at before I go into the job, like everything I do to get me out of bed to make me work that Saturday. And his wife's right along there in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. So he gets home from work late. We're going after our dreams. We're changing our kids' lives. And that's a different why. That's a deeper passion. And I love it because when you peel back the onion enough, because a lot of people like dreams. I just want to be able to put food on my kids' plates and have a good Christmas. I'm like, there's so much more to that. Like, who do you want to know? Where do you want, like, where do you see your life? Are you happy with you looking in the mirror? And we build this stuff back. And, I got guys that redo their teeth and they go to the dentist and, man, they smile again and they just light up a room. And it's amazing when you take care of yourself and you start getting in shape and you're happy with yourself it changes everything.
Speaking of which, do you mind being vulnerable a little bit?
Always.
As far as how did you do that so that everyone saw the servant leader in you?
For myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
You know what I'm asking? It's like, all right, Tommy, walk the talk.
Yeah. So
where were you? Like, let's go back 2 or 3 years.
So this was...
in the last year where you were like, hey, I got to practice what I preach. This is what I'm going to do for myself first. And then watch the team.
So...
I'll use your work. Here, I'll give you the hint. Get to your workout type stuff.
Yeah. So my cousin Rachel calls me up, and she's
cousin Rach.
She's a trainer in Chicago. She's got like a doctorate degree. She goes, Tommy, I follow you all over. I've read your books. Me and her are pretty close.
Yeah.
She's like, you're like such a good public speaker. You've read more books than I'll ever dream of. She's like, you're good at everything you do. You're like the top competitor. She's like, why don't you take care of yourself? And she's like, sometimes you get like blackout drunk. Sometimes you're not eating right. Sometimes you're just not sleeping right. She's like, you can see it in your body. It just looks like it's melting down. And I was like, all right, asshole. But no, I took that to heart. And then my cousin, her older brother, Mike, calls me up and says, dude, I just went to the doctor yesterday, and I'm going to have to get on cholesterol medicine and everything else if I don't change my diet and like watch the alcohol and like get the sleep and water. And he goes, why don't we do a contest? And he was already pretty deep into this.
Okay.
So this was like, he told me that story. Then a few months later, he lost a lot of weight. And then I bumped into Andy Elliott, and he's like, you're better than this. And then Travis Ringy up in Idaho, shirt off, chiseled, and just said, yeah, I'm not drinking right now. I don't want a beer. And all these signs were around me. And one day I look in the mirror, and I'm like, I've had it. I'm not happy. I've made every excuse in the world of why. Like, I'm busy and this happens and I travel a lot and people don't know how busy it is and I'm trying to be the best for everybody. And like, I can't take, and then I'm like, no, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, that's it. I took a picture and it was pretty nasty. And I'm like, I'm done with this. And right now I'm recalibrating because I will be at less than 10% body fat by September. And I've never been that low, probably since, 7 years old or something. So, it's great when you have great people around you and you've got contests and for me, you want to make bets and just little things. I bet on myself any day of the week. I don't do sports gambling. But that's when I actually started waking up and I'm like, wow. Like I looked in the mirror one day and I was like really happy. I was like, I'm better than this. And now I'm taking it to the next level. Like I've been lifting, like I could put on 315 for 8. Like I'm super strong. The hard part for me has always been it's convenient to eat whatever.
Yeah.
And so the alcohol wasn't even hard. It was eating right, drinking enough water, and getting on the right supplements and staying staying super disciplined to do it every day. And so I was telling you before, I got a guy, and I love accountability. Like, I ask for it. I build the accountability. And I'm great at handling stress and anxiety. So I got a guy now going to come super in shape. He's going to work with me an hour a day. We're calling it the power hour. And I'm going to eat all the right stuff. And I don't mind eating healthy as long as it tastes good. It was always convenient for me.
Yeah.
And I like the pre-made meal stuff that you could order. They're just not good. Filled with sodium, a lot of them. So he's going to help with that. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to start doing high-intensity interval training. I'm going to start doing a lot of cardio. And I'm like, I'm going to be there by September, but I want to get jacked. And Bree's like, don't get super jacked. She's like, I think it looks stupid when guys are like crazy. And I always do legs. Like, a lot of guys skip legs. Your mental state, like your decision-making ability, and then the way they look at you, it just changes.
So stop, Tommy, right there. I want to ask you two questions. One is, you talked about the mental state. What would the audience love to know about when you made that transformation? How did it affect everything else that you were already working on in A1 with the crazy speed that you keep up?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more clarity. It's like you don't have the depressed times. And I'm never been like on medication for depression or anything.
But the stresses of what you were going through.
Oh, it's more of like the hangovers of like,
God,
you feel like crap and you feel lethargic and you're just like, and the energy level's not there.
Yeah.
So now I started walking around and I was just like, yeah. And it was like this euphoria, the serotonin lift. It was the weeks I started with the cold showers and the cardio and just going in, just always moving. I started walking and talking instead of just sitting at the desk. And you feel great. You have more energy throughout the day. You sleep better. You get more consistent sleep. It's just all around. And then the people that looked at me were like, I want what you got. And they were all around now. Everybody's working out. I had a guy I just met that lost 50 pounds the last 6 months.
Nice.
Since the Freedom event. And I'm seeing this all the time. And now I'm like, I just want to be the best version of myself of everything I can control. I can't control the traffic. I can't control a lot of things, but I can control getting out of bed. I can control doing push-ups. I can control things. And I do like somebody there to push me, to go that extra mile, to do the extra things. Because I know I don't always keep promises to myself. I say I'm going to do something a day. It's easy to say, what's more important, having dinner with Bree or working out? And you could do both.
Right.
Because if you're on social media and if you're watching any Netflix or Amazon, you got to be disciplined. And I love people that hold me accountable. I call it an accountability partner. And that's one thing I'm building is I'm going to war. And it's going to be hard to beat me because when I'm dedicated and I got my mind right, it's hard to beat.
What do you do if you said it, maybe I missed it. What do you do explicitly for the mental side of that versus just the physical side? I know they go hand in hand, but you know what I'm getting at. It's like,
I wouldn't call it journaling, but if you looked at my phone, I've got probably 20 tabs of Google files that I go in and I whiteboard all the time. I'm always kind of building my future self. I got a plan of what I'm going to do and how am I going to get there with an outcome and key result. You know, I pray, we go to church, I golf, I stretch. I'm getting more. I mean, when I was really hitting it hard, I was getting 2 massages a week and that was just like, and I'm building a yoga studio at the house, even though I'm not a big yoga guy, just to get that in.
right.
And that kind of stuff is great mentally. And, you know, I read a lot of books. And when I'm working out a lot and sleeping right, actually the stuff sticks.
Yeah.
So, the hard part is like, alcohol's never been like, it wasn't hard for me to stop for 100 days at all.
Oh.
Then I'm like, man, I kind of want to just go out and have fun and drink. And it doesn't matter if you do that twice a month. It's just kind of counterintuitive to getting in shape and your mental state. Mm-hmm. And, whatever it is. But there's a lot of people doing other stuff, that's probably not good for you. Even pizza night, like I could live without it. It's just these difficult choices. But what I want is something delicious. And it doesn't need to be fattening. But it's just convenient sometimes wins.
Yeah.
So I needed to set up my life a little differently, and that's what I'm working on.
So let me go back to, we're about halfway through, and I want to be going back to, these are just, I'm going to just kit you with tons of topics, Tommy, because whether they're in your book, whether you've podcasted, whatever, it's just, I think people generally want to know, like, what's deeper in your cranium as far as some of these topics. One of them I wanted to dive into was marketing and branding.
Yeah.
How you see in Elevate and in other topics, you really have dove deep into these things. If you can, just refresh your take on marketing versus branding.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Or how they are cohesive, different, whatever.
Well, I remember when I rebranded with Dan Etzinelli, Big Church, and it was expensive. And
I read it was.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to pay this money. I'm like, I'm doing good. And I don't know what exactly pushed me over the edge, but when I did it, I just remember, like, all of a sudden when the billboards and the TV and the trucks and the email signatures and the website, and all of a sudden this cohesiveness, it changed the way people remembered my brand. And then when I showed up, all of a sudden the tickets got higher and the conversion rate went up. And I started really attracting affluent clients that weren't price shopping. They just said, we want it done right. We know you're a great brand. We see you everywhere.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people started to line up at my door to work with us. And I talked to probably 15, 20 companies that did the rebrand and changed their names even. Like Brent Buckley, or not Brent Buckley, he did it in Vegas, but I'm trying to think. Amanda did it. There's so many companies. He's done like 2,500 brands, but Bueller, and like the story Jason says is just absolutely incredible. How it changed the company. I mean, and he was all nervous about it. He had an older company, and like it changes everything. So the brand is like. The brand is a form of marketing, but the brand is what people see you as. It's like your calling card. It's like A1 from day one, but our brand became these color schemes, and we've got the email and everything else from our clipper and Val packet. It's all the same messaging, and it works. 1 + 1 = 7 in this case, and you start adding 1 + 1 + 1 = 21. It's like compounding,
right?
And it was about $40 million when we rebranded, and the profitability went up and the revenue kept going up. And all of a sudden the bottom line went through the roof. And the people I attracted changed. So a lot of people say we're just not big enough. We don't have the money for that. And all I would tell you is you go to...
Other than bullshit, what's your other answer?
Yeah, well, the fact is the brand is Darius Livers and I were talking, and he said leadership's the most important thing. I said, I agree. But branding is... Your brand is everything. Your brand, like what do you think these guys? Personal brand. What is your brand in the? But what's your company brand? That's your livelihood. That's how you're taking care of families. You don't have enough money to come off as the best brand. So people always, you see a truck on the road. If you're flipping houses, you're like, that guy looks like the most affordable, broke down. That guy will do it for less. I'm going to use that guy. When people have a home that they're going to raise their kids in forever, and it's their best investment. They've been through this. A lot of people have been through the ringer. They went to the cheapest guy, never got done. It broke down. It was more than, like, I've had that happen.
No
right?
warranty, blah, blah, blah.
And who's the guy coming into my house around my family?
Yeah.
And so people want nice things. They hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. And they like options, because if we're not giving options, we're giving ultimatums. So it's not a yes or no. It's I'm going to go through a few different options, and you can pick one you like. We've got the economical builder grade, and we've also got the top of the line. Probably one that fits. You tell me which one.
You're not being, what's the word? That scummy upsell type thing.
A lot of times people pick the best option, and it's the way we present it. And I don't care. People always say, I hate people that sell things people don't need. I sell things people don't need all the time. I sell things people want. They don't need a garage door opener that connects to their phone for their garage door opener to work.
You don't need it.
Nobody needs that. But you got a 15-year-old opener if you've ever thought about replacing it. Yeah. You don't need a bottom rubber. The door will work without it, but that's what keeps the scorpions, the spiders, and ants, and the critters out. People, you don't need it. So, when you buy a car after 90,000 miles, they'll replace all the hoses. They'll replace all these. You go in and they replace you're going to spend $10,000 on a new car, 90,000 miles, because they don't want to wait for it to break on the highway. So people you replace springs before they break, and I'm like, they're 8 years old. They've used the door 15 times a day. Should I wait for it to break and them to miss work and their kids' football practice? Is that the best option? Or should I at least say, these springs are getting up there.
Right.
Do you want to just get this done and then it's under warranty and then everything's covered? And people want that option. When I get a plumber to come to my house, can you make the water pressure higher? Can you get hot water faster? Give me every option. I'm a good client. I don't think I'm rich or poor. Give me all my options and I'll pick which ones I like.
Yeah.
Well, if I buy a car, maybe I want a moonroof, maybe I don't. Maybe I want heated seats, maybe I want the special premium alloy wheels. But give me the options. I'll buy the ones I want.
You're an adult. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, no, I don't believe in selling things. I'm like, dude, you didn't need anything you bought.
That was your bias, not theirs.
Yeah, and these guys are cheap. They're going to go broke. They don't have a business. They have a job. They all don't like me because a lot of these guys on Facebook groups are like, oh, that guy. And I'm like, listen, my people, they're buying houses. My coworkers are winning. They're becoming better parents. They're taking their kids on trips. They brag about how great a pricing they give their clients when paying their people less than $50,000 a year, holding their life down. I'm going to screw over all my employees so I can say I gave a good deal to my clients. And I think we could do both. I think I could give the best value and also give them a working life that they're able to buy and afford nice things for their family.
So on that, talk a little bit about, let's go one step further in the marketing, because I think you did a great job of, I've heard you speak about this before, maybe it was in your book, about who was it was Jody? Is it
Jody Underhill?
About how marketing and recruitment, so many companies don't see that opportunity.
Yeah, so 50% of my brain is marketing for clients. 50% is working on internal clients, which are the coworkers I get to work with.
Right.
Because if you look at our top performers versus bottom, there's a lot there. So if you could get the perfect avatar that smiles all the time. And there's people out there, they're competitive, they like to win, they smile, they give a good handshake, they don't stutter, they're good customer facing, they're honorable, they say yes sir, no sir, they'll work that extra shift, they'll get 5-star reviews, they're out there. But they want to work somewhere great. They want somebody that communicates, they get right back to them, they want to feel like they're special. So I think when you can stack the deck with great people that answer the phone, hello, thank you for calling A1 Garage Door Service. My name's Tommy. How can I help you? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. We're going to send out one of our best, because that was my mom that used to make calls. And I'd show up. They're like, who is that lady?
That's my mom.
I would never say, I would be like, oh, she's the best. I never wanted to feel like it was like this small. And so, but they'd be like, whatever the garage door needs, just anybody that, we've never called a company with somebody that amazing. And I mean, she would talk to them. She'd be like, oh my, you've got to be, we're going to send out our best. And she went into this mode that was like super happy, super excited, but also empathetical or whatever the word is. And that's what you got to be looking. And people are like, well, we're not hiring right now. Why? There's an ace out there that you could pay. I'm always recruiting. Always be recruiting. Always. I'm at a restaurant recruiting. I'm recruiting all the time to get great people.
Well, and define recruiting versus hiring.
Yeah, well, hiring is when someone goes to they're in the unemployment line, and they go to Indeed, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist, wherever, and they apply and you hire them. Recruiting is actively going out there and like putting ads out on Facebook of somebody not looking for a job and getting them to come to work for you. So they've got a great job. Your job is just better. the opportunity is better. It's a lot of times a wife will see for our technicians, they're like, you should go here. And at first they're like, we thought it was like some scheme that couldn't be this good. And it's not always roses and daisies. I mean, there are times you got to work late. There are times that, times that things don't go right. There are times that like we make a mistake on the address or a customer cancels last minute. I mean, stuff happens. But overall, I'd say because I was every role in the company, I have a lot of like, I've understood what they're going through. And that's why I feel like we're a technician installer first company.
On the on that recruiting side, Tommy, I think you've also talked about how you talked about your competitiveness, and it's kind of that old adage of show me someone that's played sports or had a competitive lifestyle, and I'll invest in him or her and teach them up. Right? It's about attitude as much as technical skills. Right?
I hire for attitude. I train on skills. I mean, Jody Underhill with Rabbit Hire has taught me a lot. And that's who we were talking about. He came in at a time that I needed him the most, and we were able to hire 40, 50 people a month from 10.
Wow.
But we've gotten really granular at what we're looking for. And part of that is, tell me, who's your favorite athlete? What's your favorite sport? Why do you love Michael Jordan? And I want to understand, I don't care if you played a sport. Did you play the trumpet? Did you have to practice every day to get better? Did you play in the symphony? Did you do karate?
That was good, by the way.
Karate. Whatever it was, I want to know that you stuck to something you practiced every day. You made it part of your lifestyle to get better at it. And if I ask you how important is winning, if you're like, I just like to have fun, that's not a guy for me or a gal for me. Like I want to say, I don't just want to win. I want to win at the highest level. I compete. If I'm number 3 in the company out of 400 technicians, I'm losing. I will not allow that to happen. I will go find help to become the best of the best. And I'm going all in on this. This is not only a career for me. This is part of my life. This is everything. That's who I want. And the people, like, our culture is really different. Like, the top guys help the top guys. Like, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to teach that guy my stuff because then he'll get better jobs. And it's just a broken mindset.
So on that, I think another one that you get asked a lot is, okay, Tommy, what's your position on Gen Zers and millennials and all that kind of stuff? Because they don't have that. Well, I say bullshit, and I think you do too. But give me your definition of how you look at that differently than your competitors, or how you rebut that whenever it goes, Tommy, this new generation doesn't know how to work.
Well, baby boomers used to work. They're workhorses, and they hated what they did, but they said, this is what I was taught. I go to work, and I'll buy a house one day, and I'll reach 65 and get Social Security. Gen X, Gen Z, like millennials, and I'm right on the borderline of a millennial, 83, is like, we want to be part of something. We want to know how it all works. We want to know that there's a plan for us, that someone's behind us. We want to be kind of involved in the conversation. Right. We don't want a dictatorship. We want more of a say, a democracy. Like, what's next for me? Do I ever get to move out of the truck? Is there other opportunities available? What do we do for fun? How's my family going to be involved? And when you give that to them and they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves and they understand where we're going and we're making decisions together, all of a sudden they enjoy their life. But 83% of people say they'd leave their current job for a better one, and it's not always the money. That's the biggest mistake, is everybody says money, 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 money. Do they enjoy Mondays, or do they cringe? Here's the way to tell if you like somebody. When the phone pops up and you go, oh, not this person. It's going to be a bitch fest. It's going to be a complaint. Or you're like, oh my gosh, hold on, guys, I need to take this call. And you know it's just going to put a smile on your face. Yeah. It could be someone, just a good friend, but you just know it's going to be great. And I'll tell you, I just hope that when people see my name pop up, that they go, this is going to be good. It's not going to be just this, oh, you don't understand how bad it is. The fires I put out today. Oh my gosh, these people don't want to work. The vendors aren't giving me traffic and all these things they can't control. And the culture will build itself where you could have a plan for it. And most people, they're like, me. I took all the risk. I put my house on the line to build this business. I was the one that had to take blood to get an insurance policy to get the SBA loan. I was the one that came here on weekends. I was the one. And the problem with that is you don't have anything without a team.
Right.
And so leaders eat last. And yes, but they don't have, most companies, those people don't have equity. So you got to understand, you got all the upside potential too. And people don't want to work for you because you're horrible to be around. You've always told people how bad they are and you could do it better. When I started taking my COO, my CFO, and a bunch of directors and different technicians to these events I go to, and taking them to Pantheon, and taking them to take them on shop tours, they were like, dude, now I get what you get so excited. Like, now I get why you collaborate so much. And then I don't care if they make a mistake. I'm like, fail quickly and hopefully cheaply. Like, don't make a ton of $200,000.
Fail forward, but
fall forward. And the thing is, when they're like, you're not mad? Like, someone walked up to me a few weeks ago and said, we found this mistake that was happening that we're not going to get the money back. I go, good. Like, you're not mad? I'm like, so going forward, we found new money? Like, you're not mad? And I'm like, no, mistakes happen. Yeah. Like, it's all good. Like, we're allowed to make mistakes. All I care about is that we learn from them and grow from them and don't make the same mistakes again. Because certain people do. And certain people don't put systems around things. And there's 3 reasons a system doesn't go right. There's no system, it's the wrong system, or the system's not being followed. And I believe number 3 is the majority of the time. Somebody built something, and they have no checks and balances. Yeah. That's why, I don't know if you know about Rillo voice, but it's kind of nice to know what's going on in the, like they say, I say everything you say. Then I'll listen to the call with the client. I'm like, you didn't even bring up a service agreement. You didn't give them options. You didn't ask them for a review. You literally did all the talking instead of asking open-ended questions. We found that if customers talk 60% of the time, they not only go with us, but they tend to invest more with us.
You touched on it briefly, and if you can, I'm sure you get this question a lot. Well, Tommy, that's all great. I've listened to how you grew your business, put systems and all these other kind of things. What about capital? Like, Tommy, did you take chips off the table, and did you have investors at any stage of your development? And if you did, what's the advice you'd give other business owners?
Yeah, so I never borrowed any money except for credit cards. And I remember I was at Valpak in 2014, and she said, Sue Milliken said, why don't you have a gold card? And she explained what she was doing on points. And all of a sudden, I had a $100,000 limit.
Yeah.
And I used to rack it up and pay it off. I was really good about this. But, there were times where I had to write the company a check for 30, 40 grand. Yeah. We were getting more inventory or whatever it was. So I never really borrowed it. I borrowed money to buy our building.
Okay.
So that's a really good asset to buy. I strongly recommend anybody buy. One of the guys I partnered with actually bought his garage door company. He goes, I've made just as much money buying my first building, selling it, buying the next one. Then the next one was worth $10 million. He goes, but I bought it for $3 million. So I made $7 million. And it was interesting. And then he goes, why do you buy used trucks when you can depreciate 100% of it as your tax write-off, plus you get the morale of happy guys, plus you look great in front of clients. And it never made sense. So I sat down with him and I listened to him. He's an elder and he was successful. And then, we ended up partnering to get his business. But I listened to him. And going back to the capital side of things, I got the company, so I did an equity incentive program. I gave 20% of the company away after a $50 million value. So the $50 million was mine. And then everything else, if you own 1%, let's just say for sake of numbers, it went to $100 million and you had 1%. You get 1% of the 50, so you get $500,000, right? So I gave 20% away, and to the people that were helping building the business. And after I did that, and I've done the math 3 ways from Sunday, the company grew like wildfire. But the company was at a size now, and the systems were set up, and the right people were in place.
Yes, the timing was right.
The timing, people should not do this if they're small and they don't know who's going to be there forever. But the equity, it's kind of like phantom equity. It does invest, but over 5 years, you can put the vesting sides. You have no rights in the decision making. There's all these things to EIP. But then literally Tom Howard comes out and the IPO, the public market just went to shambles. Software was getting 25, 30x, it went to 10x. And he goes, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. He goes, Tommy, your company's in a really good spot. You're murdering it. I told you to never take chips off the table. He's like, but how much do you have available to buy companies? And I had a delayed draw term loan in place. Then I could buy companies, but it took 3 months of seasoning before they'd let me do another company. And so he goes, it might be that time. And we went home and watched The Big Short. And we started whiteboarding. And I called my president of the company and I said, Dan, it's time. Let's prepare. And I said, I want to roll 60%, though. I still want to be majority. Well, we ended up doing a deal that I rolled 47.5. And so there was a lot of money that came out, and 25 millionaires came out of that. And all of a sudden, the money in my account was completely different. And I had to relearn what wealth was, because most people, when the kind of money that hit my account hits your account, it's like the people that win the lottery go broke because you got bad advisors, you do bad investments, you just don't know how to handle that much money. And now people start to treat you different, and now everybody's your best friend. And I didn't have any problems with it. Like, I really didn't have any problems at all. And I ended up writing a lot of checks to a lot of people outside of that money, because I could gift up to like $12 million, 12.5, and then I could give $17,000 away a year and all these things. But I helped a lot of people that in family and just old business partners, stuff like that. And now we're using other people's money and leverage, and the goal is to get the company, 4x what it was, and then take more chips off the table, and then do an IPO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for being honest with that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask, I mean, the with the M&A market the way it is, and especially in the services, the PEs are calling everybody every day, right? And so a lot of people that connect with this show, they're always asking, hey, when do I take the chips off the table? When do I do this? Well, I don't know. Do you want to leave a legacy company? Do you want to sell? What's your position?
No.
So I think your story really resonates, because people can go, hey, look, I understand what Tommy did now.
Well, a lot of people, they're like, I want to get to 100 million like you. And I'm like, why?
They don't have a good why, do they?
No, they're like, well, you showed it's possible. And I'm like, what do you want for your family? Where do you see your life? You'll never fully retire. But where do you want your houses?
Right.
Do you need to have a private jet? Like, let's be really, because you really want a screwed up life, get all that kind of money. Try to see who your friends are.
Yep.
Like, just because you could doesn't mean you have to do it. And I'm like, it's a great goal, but if you're not going to take chips out the table in the next 5 years, Adam Coffey's got a rule. He wrote the private equity playbook. He calls it the rule of 140. If you get past 4 million of EBITDA, take some chips out the table. If you add up the percentage your business is worth to you of your net worth and your age, and it's over 140, take chips off the table right away. So if you got 80% of your value of all your wealth and you're 56, that's 146. Like, do something.
Yeah.
And I think it should be the rule of 130, actually. I mean, I would have even begged it for 120, because, I mean, I'm working with Goldman Sachs, and they're all about investments diversification. And if you don't have enough money off the table and the lawsuit or something bad happens, and it does, those dark days happen. They come out of one day you wake up, tomorrow's not promised. And there's no contingency plan. If something happens to you or your key man and you don't have the right insurance, or just you get hacked and your service tight and you don't get access to it, or your Google goes down and stays down for a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff happen. I've seen class action lawsuits that tear a company apart in California specifically. I've seen Google go down where nobody can get it up for 6 to 8 months. Like, shit happens. And you should have enough money that you could live on instead of gambling all the time and double downing. I got very lucky, but I'm not married and don't have kids. I'm used to working a lot more hours than most.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yeah, if I didn't have kids or be married, I'd be where you're at. I'm like, maybe. I don't doubt it, but I'll just tell you this. I'm always the dumbest guy in the room, and I take notes and I actually implement.
Speaking of being the dumbest guy in the room, what advice do you give for when people say, Tommy, who should I surround myself around other than, do you believe in the peer groups? Do you believe in, the business networking and the things that, I'm asking. So how do you feel about that? And what have you surrounded yourself with?
Yeah, I do. I tend to, I think all those groups are great. I just think you should be in a group that somebody's ahead of you, but not, if you're 2 million, don't hang around with the $100 million guy. Hang out with the $8 million guy. And you got to be willing to shift up and move. I mean, YPO is great. I'm part of the Genius Network. There's all these different things. I hang out with the guys from Nextdoor quite a bit, but it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical.
Right.
I tend to find people that are like me, like visionary, ADHD, not super organized, and see who they have around them and see how they did it. And now it's like I got to go find billionaires. But it's fun because it gets easier. It actually does get easier. Now I got ideas that I'm like, man, now that I got the money working for me, there's so much ways to make money. And money's not everything, but it's a cool KPI to keep track of. And, money's not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. If you praise money, it becomes an issue. But it's kind of cool. You got an obligation and a duty and a responsibility to make as much money as possible when you own a business. That's because you could do more good with that money than having the bad guy that's greedy, that doesn't take care of people, that literally just does not care, trying to grease his own wheels. Like, I have a duty because I'm helping out a lot of people, and I believe that. And it's a great cause, and, I do a lot of stuff. And it's only going to get, the more money I make, the more I become a philanthropist.
Yeah. And
I just make sure it's going to the right people. I believe, look in your own backyard first. Look at the single moms driving with bald tires. Look with the guys in your group without a good smile. Like, look for someone that doesn't have a good Thanksgiving dinner. Like, don't go after the publicity and the media. Do stuff that no one else knows about, that only you know about. So we got this thing, TommyCares.org, that I'll donate. Like, and no one knows who's getting what, but I put $22,000 a month. That's just grants out of my own pocket. And I don't advertise that. It's just nice because I want people to use it. If you haven't gone on a date and don't have a babysitter, it might only be, just ask for $400. Boom. And if you need it for something personal, like your dad's in the hospital, then you don't even need to tell me. But I love to know the reasons if it's something fun, because I want you to send me a picture because it makes me smile.
Hey, Tommy, speaking of money, I think you've done it. I know a lot of people, once you cross the path of finding a CFO or some FPAs that really know what they're doing, give your testimonial of how that changed your business.
Yeah, well, the CFO is probably the most important. I didn't know this, and the right FP&A people, which is absolutely, we got 3 FP&A now.
Right.
They're so forward thinking. They're thinking about, why is your AR out of control? Why are we running 727 customer courtesy calls a month? What can we fix? What can we collect to get rid of your AR? They're figuring out ways to get more margin by just creating, like, make the guys collect the money while they're there, And, man, the financial modeling and the reporting, like, when you look at the back of a baseball card, you can see RBIs, you can see their batting average, you can see all these stats. But in a business, they don't know any of it. They don't know the main function, the booking rate, that's so easy to get. But when we look at the things, we're looking at, like, the purchasing power. What can we get out of co-op? We ask our vendors to do so much more than most people do. And we're a large purchasing company. So people are willing to do a lot more. Like, we take up a lot more percentage of their revenue. So we ask for a lot. And the CFO is kind of forward thinking. Adrian is a genius. Like, when we got Adrian on our team, he is like the real deal. I mean, we get audited by a Big Four now. We are constantly going through, because we borrow money to buy companies. So, there was a time we were on cash. I suggest everybody switch to accrual earlier than later.
Yeah.
Because you can't get a loan. You can't go to SBA or anything else without accrual accounting. Some cool things you can do with cash, but if you want to be a big boy, switch to accrual. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, when Leanne started their FP&A, oh my gosh, genius. And the things we're working on now, it's just like crazy to me.
See, it matches, where I was going with this is it matches the ADHD of slick entrepreneur, not slick, very aggressive entrepreneurs like yourself. And I wish that, in my own retrospect, someone would have educated a lot of us about the significance of a CFO and FPAs earlier. Because I think you can take a bigger investment and turn it into a higher ROI too.
I wish I would have had Adrian years and years ago. I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
I had a CPA tell me my guys were fine. But when you get a 10 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10 compared to...
It makes a big difference.
Well, people have advanced bookkeepers. People have their... I always say, get the best fractional CFO that costs $800,000 for the year, but you're only using them 1/10 of the time for $80,000, because they'll give you that you'll learn to do billpay.com, and you'll learn just how to set up with the technology and the different things, the reporting and the setup, where it's like... And then he'll ask you, he's like, I work with 10 clients. You've got by far the lowest gross profit. You should probably go talk to this guy.
Bingo.
Because your pricing's not right. If your price book's not, If your pay structure doesn't go off of your price book, it makes no sense. So you're billing somebody for how many hours? Well, what are you paying on that? Like, they're so connected. The way you price things and the way you pay are very, 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 there's got to be a lot in common in the two of them.
Fair enough. We have a few minutes left. There's one other subject I'd love to ask you about, and that is, I know I've heard you mention it before, and you kind of geek out with the way my brain works is, and if there's any proprietary secrets, just say no. But how are you using generative AI to even take A1 to another level?
Well, right now, I believe there's three things we're using. We're using Power BI to take out three things. Payroll systems, I want to look at 360 reviews, and I want to look at turnover rate.
Okay.
And I want to pull out anniversary dates, all that stuff, into my centralized system of Power BI. The CRM, important KPIs, pull into there. And then you've got your financials that are in intact, and all those reports are important. So I've got the Power BI, which is business intelligence. Then I've got Chirp with automations. Automations are super important. Does amazing things. Actually, you can find millions of dollars of revenue for a company like mine a month using automations like Chirp. And then we're using Rilla Voice. And we're building this whole AI suite, but machine learning is not AI. Machine learning is like, for example, Dispatch Pro. It's learning over time and making the best calculations. AI is actually emulating human intelligence. So we're looking at different AI things. Like, for example, in the call center next year will probably be mostly a lot of things will be like an AI assistant that know if you're calling into a certain line, it'll get you over to the right department.
Got it.
And now it's getting very sharp. I mean, I just called Cox Communications for the internet, and they were able to read the AI within 1 minute rebooted my modem, and I had internet again. Like, they're getting better. And now this world, I'm staying really close to this stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very close, because I know it's going to change the way we do things. And I love the old-fashioned brains, just like, oh, no, I'm not even on a CRM. Like, they will be wiped out.
They will.
Wiped out. Like, data, you cannot compete. Like, when you understand regression testing and statistical analysis and outliers and the stuff that we're learning, it's like bringing an atomic bomb to a knife fight. That's what it is.
I love the analogy.
It's not even fair.
No, it's not.
And so a lot of people, they're just dinosaurs, and we're going to eat their lunch. I mean, it's not even going to be fair. It's so crazy, the stuff we're working on. And I'm looking at it going, how does anybody stand a chance? And I want my competitors to win. I know competition is important, or it's considered a monopoly. And I'm like, but realistically, and these guys all are out there right now listening, probably some competition going, what do you think we're doing? And I'm like, I want them to win too, because we could both win. We could both make great money. We could both have a great business. But I just hope they understand, like, we're not a garage door company. We're a technology company that does garage doors. There's a big difference. I mean, just the data alone on the personality profiles of how we hire. I mean, there's not a lot of people doing it.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, thank you. That kind of wraps it up. I do want to do a call out again. Tommy's all over the place. Find him on social media. He does the home service expert. I actually follow that quite frequently. I think it's great. I've even I'm not gonna lie, I'll be working over here and have one of the things running in the background, but it's good. It's just, I'm a consummate reader like you, but it's more like information in. I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? Like, yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And again, if a self-proclaimed general contractor can learn from a service provider, I love the interface. And so I just, congratulations for everything you're doing. I think you're a trendsetter. I think you're doing a wonderful job with around the everyone wins thing. I think there's a lot of transformational and uplifting messages that came out of what you've done in your book and how you've documented that. So keep it up. Look forward to you being part of our community for a long time.
Yeah. One quick thing.
Yeah.
I got really the best value in my life by going and visiting about 20 HVAC shops. Mm-hmm. And I flew out of town. I put with an empty spiral notebook. I bought them lunch or whatever, and I went and I took notes and I implemented. And because of that, people always ask, why do you do shop tours? TommyMello.com/shop. It's free. I give out books. I'm an open book. They can see my training, the way we recruit. It's because, number one, it keeps my people on their toes. Number two, pays it forward. Like I get them on a stage in front of 20 people, and I said, "This is the guy that came up with this." We're super organized. We hold things because we know we always have company, and it's a way of me giving back for all the people that have gave back to me. So once you see, and you don't have to come to my shop. I don't really care. I'd love to have you, but if you want to learn, you go to people that are in the position. Success leaves clues. You go to these companies. And when I saw it, when I first saw Ken Goodrich's shop, then I saw Keegan's, and then I saw, Ken Haynes, and then I saw Leland. I went to all these shops, and I just saw it was like it was like the air in there was different. And like the answers were all there. So I took all the answers, and I'd go implement, and then I'd get more. And I'm like, more, keep feeding me. And I go implement. And then I started bringing my coworkers with me. And then we go, and then I got them in their peer groups. And I want to leave the invitation. If you ever want to come, check out A1. It gets hot in the summers in Arizona, but it's TommyMello.com/shop. No money. And hopefully we can answer a lot of your questions.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow JJ Levinsky on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tune in every Monday